Harden and Chris Paul. Then Yahoo Sports added fuel to that fire, saying CP3 had enough and wanted out of H-Town. Paul had this to say to the Houston Chronicle about all the drama. I never asked for a trade. I never demanded a trade. I'll be in Houston. I'm happy about that. I'm very happy about that. I'm good. Max, let's get right to the on the court, though. Has the Rockets championship window closed?
No, it hasn't. And I don't expect them to win, but I can't say the window's closed. Let me say first, of course, CP3's got to come out and say this now, because it's a bad look for him because no one will take the contract. You can't move him for anything. Remember when I said you'd have to use an asset to get him off your books? Like, you know, at first it's like, oh, what could you get for CP3? Nothing. You can't get anything. It's not that he's not still a good player. It's that he's going to get $44 million when he's 37 years old and he's already in decline. That's the problem with CP3. The contract's an albatross for any organization. So he has to come out and say this now. It's a face-saving move. The championship window's not closed, though, guys. Look, they didn't have Chris Paul at all in that Game 7. And he was compromised physically in that series. And they took the Warriors with a healthy KD and Clay to a Game 7, the playoffs before last. Was that 13 months ago? Not all that long ago. If James Harden hits key shots, they'll win. It comes down to that. You say, well, what about Trevor Ariza? Steve, I was talking to, who was it? I think it was Jalen Rose. You know Jalen, great guy. I should introduce you to. But I was talking to Jalen Rose about this, and Jalen was talking about, like, all these free agents. Forgive me, Jalen, if it's not you, that I'm thinking about from last week. Talking about, like, once the guys there's so many free agents, some of them are going to be snapped up for steals after the money's spent, you know? So you're going to lose the middle class. You're going to get top tier and kind of next tier and then bottom. Well, some of those guys are going to be 3-and-D, Trevor Ariza type guys, Stephen A. It's not going to be that hard for the Rockets to find a replacement for that. So saying that it's Trevor Ariza and that's the problem, or Chris Paul in decline can still do some things, it's going to come down to, can James Harden hit big shots, yes or no? And just because he hasn't so far when you've needed him most does not mean he'll never do it.
As of yet, I could stand corrected by next year, whatever, but I personally believe when you have CP3 go down in Game 5 of not this past season, but last year's Western Conference Finals, you end up losing Game 6 and 7 without him, and y'all were talking and bloviating about if CP3 had not gotten hurt, they would have won a championship. Then to go against the Golden State Warriors the very next year, this time in the semifinals, for KD to be the one to go down in Game 5. Now, mind you, they down 2-0 in the series. They tied the series 2-2. Then they were down 20 in Game 5. And came back and tied the score.
Without KD.
No. This is with KD on the court. Then he got hurt. Then he got hurt. All right, so what I'm saying is that to then lose after that tells me all I need to know about Houston.
Look, I think you're bringing up D'Antoni. He's an imperfect coach, of course. Everyone knows, if not for the ejections against the Spurs, he would have won a title with the Phoenix Suns. No one in the East was going to stop the Suns. So, like, that's a little bit of bad luck, but that falls on the coach, too. You know, a disciplined team, all that stuff. You're not wrong that James Harden doesn't care a lot about defense, and D'Antoni doesn't either. And so maybe Harden's the perfect muse for D'Antoni, and he lets Harden do his thing and everyone else stand around. The problem with that logic is this. They won 65 games the year before last. 65 games! Best record in basketball. 65 games. And they took a KD plus Clay plus Steph plus Draymond and everyone healthy. Well, not Iguodala, but everyone else healthy. They took to 7 games. They had a home game. And even without CP3, yes, some of them, those shots were defended well, but they just missed a bunch of open threes, right? So why did they regress the following year? CP3 was in decline. No Trevor Ariza. But Trevor Ariza shouldn't be that hard to replace. P.J. Tucker, Clint Capella should be getting better. P.J. Tucker is the man. Harden, if he hits big shots, even in this last series, they go 7 games at least, Stephen A. You can't say if you get to a Game 7, the window's closed.
Well, here's what I can say to you to retort that. The Dallas Mavericks in 2006, 2007 won 67 games, got bounced out in the first round. The Golden State Warriors are the all-time winningest regular season team in NBA history. They won 73 games. You religiously bring up how LeBron James knocked them off. You win regular season games. That does not necessarily mean that you're going to win a championship, which we know. But more importantly, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should be a team that's deemed a favorite to win a championship. I'm looking at Mike D'Antoni, and I'm saying to Mike D'Antoni, he can coach. I'm not trying to act like the man can't do. He has nothing positive about him. I'm just telling you, when I think championships, D'Antoni's name does not come to my mind.
Of course. Look. I want to get back to your D'Antoni point that the style doesn't win championships. Stephen A., would you agree that the closest thoughts that the healthy KD Warriors ever came to, the closest call was against the Rockets the year before last in the conference finals?
Would I agree?
Yeah, that's the closest call they've had since KD joined the team.
Yeah.
Right. Were the Rockets as talented as the Warriors? They weren't. Mm-hmm. Harden and CP3 and Clint Capella does not equal KD and Steph and Clay and Dre. It just doesn't. And yet, because of the way they play, D'Antoni and Daryl Morey's system using James Harden, because of the style specifically, they were able to punch over their weight.
Let's leave it on that note. Max says the championship window is not closed. Stephen A. says it is. By the way, Trae Young will be here later and Amari Cooper. I didn't mention that off the top of the show. Still to come, guys, on First.